Hello and welcome. I'm Nathan from Smile, and today I will be talking with Matthew Cunningham, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at Morley College in London. And for context, at Smile, we built the new Morley College website. So Smile is a leading creative and digital agency for the higher education sector. And not only do we produce award-winning websites, but we also produce lots of insightful resources for higher ed professionals like yourselves. You can find out more at wearesmile.com. So let's get into it. Matthew, hello.
Morning, Nathan. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing today?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Excellent. So thanks for joining me today, Matthew. I'm wondering if you can start by providing some background on yourself, but also on Morley College London.
Sure. So my name is Matthew Cunningham. I'm the Chief Marketing and Engagement Officer at Morley. Morley's an interesting organisation. We provide truly lifelong learning for all adults. So that's from 16-year-olds right through to 116-year-olds potentially, and that covers 16 to 18 courses, further education. It goes up into higher education, accredited qualifications for adults, and also short courses, so things like evening classes in ceramics, textiles, drama, music, that kind of thing. So we're a hugely varied organisation, and it's my responsibility to promote that across London. My personal background is I have been in educational communications all my life. Most recently, quite different, at the Royal Academy of Dance, so much more around arts education. But I've also worked for UCAS as Director of Comms there, so have quite broad experience in education communications.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks. One of the reasons that I kind of asked if you wouldn't mind having this chat was I was on LinkedIn recently, and obviously I'm a Morley College follower on LinkedIn. I came across the digital strategy that Morley College is producing. And one of the things that I was really delighted to see in there was the use of stories and web stories. And with the website that we had created, one of the pieces of extension work that I guess that we'd done was integrate Google Web Stories into the site. And I was really, I thought it was really cool to see that was in the digital strategy. So, and in there, it's all related to the X of Morley, which I think is a great concept. So would you mind telling us about the X of Morley and how that ties into the wider digital strategy at Morley?
Yeah, it comes from a number of places. One of them is that I mentioned before the sort of breadth of what Morley does, and that's great, but it's also quite a challenge for us as marketing and communications people, trying to convey this huge variety from kids who are coming out of school and coming to continue their studies with us to people who are coming to learn an essential skill, maybe English as a second language, to people who want to come and learn French or German because they want to go on holiday there. So conveying that huge variety is quite a challenge. And so we came up with this concept, the X of Morley, and each time we changed the X. So one week it might be the specialists of Morley, the next week it might be the diversity of Morley, the next week it might be the performers or the creativity of Morley. So it's a kind of umbrella campaign that gives us a lot of agility and flexibility. So at any one time we can promote a particular part or facet of what we do. So you've landed on the specialists of Morley story. And what we've done with the technology, with Google Web Stories, is we've been able to quickly compile together resources perhaps that already exist and content that we can assemble very quickly. There's a bit of video there of our Chelsea Centre in that story. We're able to put that all together very quickly and push it out there and get our message out in that particular week. And in the first phase of X of Morley, which we've concluded now, we were literally doing this every week or 10 days. So it gave us a huge amount of agility to be able to suddenly say, okay, well, next week or in 2 weeks' time, we really want to do a push on community learning. So let's put together a story that tells the X factor that is the communities of Morley. So that's where it comes from, really. That need to explain this complex beast that is Morley College London in a way that is accessible to different audiences.
That's great. I think it's such a great concept, and I really like how you've used Google Web Stories, particularly, and you talking about yourself there as a content creator is something that's so interesting, and being able to generate these narratives. I mean, Google Web Stories is stories that are everywhere, ever since, I can't even remember who did it first, maybe Snapchat or something, but now you can get stories everywhere. But it is such a good stereotype, I guess. It's a known platform now, and but it's quite new for websites to be doing this sort of stuff. And I guess I'm interested in knowing, as a content creator, what has your experience been with this new format?
Well, I think I would say we've used this experimentally ourselves. So we've seen this first stage of X of Morley, which I think began back in April or something like that, and sort of concluded at the end of the academic year in July, August. And we'll recommission the campaign in the coming months, but we're sort of taking a pause now while other things have got in our way. So we saw the campaign itself as a bit of a pilot, as a bit of an experiment, and we thought that the Google Web Stories technology matched quite well because we can move very quickly with it. So the first, I think, 4 or 5 stories that we created under the campaign were done by a designer. So we worked with the designers we work with on a daily basis on our print materials and our advertising and stuff like that. And we asked them to create some web stories. But then what we were able to do was start to adopt the technology ourselves. So we had people in our office, in our marketing team, creating the stories instead of sort of outsourcing them. And the next phase I want us to do is to start sort of getting maybe even students or apprentices to create content working with our different teams. So that's been our kind of overall approach. How have we found using the technology? I mean, I would say it's a new technology, so it's got the kind of typical new adopter issues that you come across. Sometimes the back end interface is a bit slow and grindy, but it gets there in the end. And once you, as with anything, once you learn the sort of basics, it actually becomes quite straightforward for us to use. You're looking now at the back end actually of our website, and it reminds me that we did use Google Stories, and we have continued to use Google Stories for some of our 16 to 18 course provision as well.
Oh, cool.
And I think that's significant because we're recognizing really that some of this means of communication through storytelling is going to be particularly relevant to our younger students.
And so for those that don't know, the editing experience is all completely within the back end of your website, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it really is quite straightforward once you kind of learn the basics, and learning the basics takes a couple of hours. It's not anything particularly different from the apps that people use in their daily lives, really.
Yeah. And you've spoken there about kind of unexpected benefits as well with your 16 to 18 provision. Were there any other unexpected benefits that you kind of came across when you were beginning to use this?
Well, I mean, we are very much at the beginning of this journey. So I'm expecting lots more to follow. The biggest one I would note at this point is the way that we can sort of democratize the creation of content, but still have a level of corporate consistency. So that's what I'm really quite excited about. The other benefit that at the moment is a bit assumed, but we want to start measuring it, is the return on the sort of search engine optimization that comes through using a Google technology. It's a no-brainer, isn't it? So we want to start measuring whether the use of these web stories actually has a really positive impact for us in terms of SEO and people finding their way to the things that we are trying to get them to find their way to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Matthew, for your time today. I think that's been really interesting. I'm sure that a lot of other colleges and universities out there will get some good value out of that today. So thank you very much. And if people would like to talk about education marketing with Matthew in more detail, then you can connect with Matthew over on LinkedIn. His URL is up on screen now. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it useful today, and see you next time. Thanks.